All right, Jesse on fire. It is Sunday morning after one of the best fights in the history of the sport. We're going to talk about that, talk about the lightweight division, and we're going to talk about Mike Perry because, you know what, let's just start there, actually. So, Mike Perry gave probably the best post-fight interview in the history of the sport, okay? Like, legit the best post-fight interview I've ever seen. I was like, this is unreal. Like, this guy literally just went out there and he beat Mickey Gall, who, you know, is a hand-picked perfect matchup for Mike Perry, okay? Like, there's not going to be really a guy that is easier for Mike Perry to beat in the entire UFC. That is like Cowboy to Conor. It's like, okay, this guy has lost a lot in a row, but you know, people like him. He's got a big social media following. Like, we got to get this guy a win. Who can we pick? You know, Mickey Gall, perfect matchup for Mike Perry. So Mike Perry went in there having, I guess, not really a camp and certainly not a coaching staff. And he took a decision victory over a hand-picked opponent as proof that he doesn't need coaches. That he just proved the entire institution of coaching obsolete. Who needs coaches? You know, look, she brought in my stool. She brought me my water. I loved that, dude. It's simultaneously so funny, so like hilarious to get inside his head of how he sees coaches. And then it's like, and it's so stupid at the same time that it's like unbelievable. It's like it's an enigma. It's an enigma. She brought me my water. She brought me my ice bucket. She put down the stool just fine. That's all I need from a coach. And you're like, oh, okay, well, what happens when you want to fight someone that's like, you know, anyone else in the UFC? Like anyone. Because candidly, you didn't look that sharp. Like, you won, but you didn't look as sharp. And I mean this as a compliment. Like, you normally look much sharper than that. You look like you didn't train very hard, you know, in terms of your work. Like, I mean, do you really think that you can train yourself? You're going to be I think Roy Nelson was doing that or something because he's an antisocial weirdo. But, yeah, like the whole train yourself, I can't think of any champions that have taken that approach. Like, you think that John Jones wouldn't be equipped to train himself if that was the best approach? Like, these guys that are world champions, consistent world champions, they all have a coach that they work incredibly well with. Like, there's no one who is successful and just trains himself. No one. Zero people. And your sample size, I think, is a little bit flawed. However, there is another side to this, which is he poured his soul out in that interview and talked about his tax bill, which was it was awesome. I loved that. So I started a GoFundMe for Mike Perry's taxes, okay? That's happening. I started a GoFundMe. Now, I'm not sure if it has any donations yet, but it should. And if you guys have it in your hearts to donate $2 or $3, maybe 10, 20, do it, right? It's going to go to the right place. Like, I'm not going to keep it. I don't need that money. I'm not one of these people that'll start a GoFundMe on some gimmick and then keep the dough. And actually, if I look like I'm being sarcastic, I'm definitely not. I would never keep that dough. I don't know how the hell I would find Mike. Well, actually, Mike Perry can find me. But either way, that's Mike Perry's money. Because, like I said, expecting him to save for taxes, I mean, that's just ridiculous. It's like expecting Jorge Masvidal not to punch you in the face if you call him a bitch from a foot away. I mean, you know, there are plenty of other people where you would expect them to show restraint. With Jorge, it's like, it's on you to know. Just don't do that. Just don't do that, right? It's on you. It's on you. Don't do that. Even he does it on videotape. He's on videotape. He's actively has a video camera on him, and someone runs their mouth, and he's like, "Oh wait, hold on for 1 second. I'm gonna go beat this guy up, barefish it. I'm gonna go commit an assault." I don't even mean to characterize it that way, because I am actually not talking shit about Jorge at all. I mean, genuinely, it's like, that shit's on you. It's a known entity. You talk shit, he's gonna break your face. Pretty straightforward. So don't run your mouth and then complain about what happens afterwards. Leon Edwards didn't complain afterwards at all. Actually, he handled that well. He handled the part afterwards pretty well. But expecting Mike Perry to save money for taxes is almost even more ludicrous than calling Jorge Masvidal a bitch and then not expecting him to slap you around. I mean, like, Mike Perry is literally living life like 15 minutes at a time. And I don't even necessarily mean that in a negative fashion. Like, he's very popular. He just won a fight with no coaching staff, even against a UFC fighter. I mean, even though the best matchup, I mean, he even said in the interview, he's like, I got really lucky in this matchup. It's like, yeah. Yes, you did. Yes, you did. But you don't seem to be looking at it that way. You don't need a... Although he said he wants to go find a fight camp. I mean, I don't know. All I was thinking about last night, too. Not all I was thinking about, but one of the things I was thinking about last night was how Jackson Wink got rid of Cowboy in favor of Mike Perry. It's like, geez, that was a bad decision. I mean, that was a bad decision, right? Like, he's a loose cannon, man. He's a loose cannon. At least Cowboy, he's loyal to the bone as long as you're loyal to him. But, yeah, Mike Perry's a free agent. If I was American Top Team, I'd be like, sure, come on out. It's like any other UFC fighter. They're like, yeah, I want to come try out, try things out. I'd be like, yeah, absolutely. With Perry, I'd be like, eesh. All right. Sure. Come on out. And yeah, like, maybe he's amazing to train with. Or maybe he's a huge distraction. Who knows, right? But I do know this. I like him, and I want to raise that money for his taxes. I'll tell you that right now. I'm not joking about that. I would love to give him that dough. I would love it. I've had a tax bill before. It's a nightmare. It really is. It's a nightmare. You can't get rid of it. That's not true. You can, actually. Well, you can negotiate. But, yeah, he said in one side of his mouth that he was, going to settle up with the government, and then 2 minutes later, he's like, yeah, we're going to go find a tropical paradise, and we're going to go drink Mai Tais, because that's not very expensive. That doesn't rack up. That doesn't add up fast. I mean, anybody who's ever been on vacation drinking Mai Tais, it's almost like it's free. It's almost like you never do math at the end of the week, and you're like, did I spend $2,800 on food and drinks in the last 5 days? What the hell am I doing? And he's a fighter. He has no new fights scheduled. So how long? I think he's going to drink Mai Tais for a while. Why would he not? I would highly suggest an all-inclusive resort, actually. That's what I would suggest. Anyway, so there's that going on. Now let's talk about Dustin Poirier and Dan Hooker, because god damn. So 155, the current lightweight division, is the best in the history of the sport, without a doubt. The most stacked division in the history of the sport. It's unreal. And the reason why that's the case, the reason why you can actually identifiably discern that and say it confidently, is because you have Khabib, Conor, Gaethje, Ferguson, Poirier, right? So you have these 5 guys at the very top of the heap, and then you have this other class underneath that are good. There are a lot of really good guys, but these guys can't beat these guys. These are high-level UFC fighters, and they can't beat these guys, okay? So that is incredibly rare, where you have a group that big at the top of the division that is heads above the other guys. Because I don't think Dan Hooker's going to beat any of those other guys either. I mean, I would feel very confident actually that he wouldn't, right? So, and Dan Hooker is right. You can see he's right there, and so it would be like Paul Felder, and oh God, what's his name? Who loses all the time? Fake tapped Kevin Lee, right? Kevin Lee's a great fighter, but he's underneath these guys. So you have five guys that are elite at the top of the heap. Now imagine if Khabib smashes all those guys, because Khabib smashed Conor. Khabib smashed Poirier. Poirier had that guillotine kind of, it seemed like it was in, and I don't argue if one of these high level Brazilian jiu-jitsu black belts says something as a commentator, I'm in no position to argue with it. Matt Serra, when he was looking at that fight, said that he thought that was in real deep. It didn't look that way to me. It looked like Khabib had room where he clearly could breathe. But yeah, but Khabib, ultimately Khabib, that choke that he put on Dustin Poirier, that's the most pain I think I've ever seen a person look like they were in from a choke. You saw his eyes almost bulge out of his head. So if Khabib ends up smashing Gaethje, and then, let's say Ferguson wins his comeback fight, and then he faces Khabib, and then he smashes Ferguson as well, that is going to be a legacy that is hard to ever argue with, right? Because there's this whole heap of people that'll beat everybody else, and then you have this one guy who smashed all them. right? So, yeah, it's exciting. It's exciting. There's so many fights there. Tony Ferguson has not fought Poirier or Khabib or Conor. Think about that. Out of the four of those, like, so there's, for each of those five, there are four to fight, right? Okay. The only one that Ferguson has fought is Gaethje. So he's still got Poirier, Conor, Khabib. Okay. Khabib has only fought Conor and Poirier. So he's still got Gaethje and Ferguson. Then you got Conor has only fought Khabib and Poirier, but Poirier was at 145. I think I actually don't really genuinely think that counts, given the kind of shots that Poirier can eat at 155, and Conor dirt napped him in 90 seconds at 145. Like, I'm not saying that I will say 100% directly that Conor's power is on a complete different level from the guys that Poirier has fought at 155. But, I mean, you know, it's a different weight class. Guys can eat shots differently at different weight classes. So I would love to see that fight. I would love to see that fight because Dustin will take him into deep waters if Conor can't knock him out early. Because, like, yeah, he at the end of that fight last night, the punishment that he took, the body shots he took. And he's like, yeah, I could do another 2 rounds. Like, wow. Wow. Do you know how disheartening that must be? Okay, do you have any idea how disheartening it must be when you hit a guy with everything you have and they're just standing right in front of you, just bombing back at you? That's never happened to me, actually. I mean, obviously my experience level is tremendously lower than these guys. But I mean, I have, fought guys like smokers and all that stuff. Like I've gotten in there and like anytime I landed a heavy shot on a guy, I knew it was a wrap. Like whether he was either knocked out or he was so stunned and so hurt that like it was going to be target practice now, and he was going to be so defensive that I knew the fight was over. Anytime I landed a really heavy shot, like, where I got it, generally that would actually happen because I'm kind of, 5'10", so I would get inside of a guy's thing, and once I was on the inside, if I'd throw an upstairs shot, if I landed that right hook, I knew it's it. So I always I was watching that fight last night, I was thinking about that. It's like, dude, this would literally be like if I landed 5 of those, and then the dude is literally just standing right in front of me as if nothing happened. I'd be like, okay, now I'm starting to feel tired, and looking at how not affected you are is making me feel more tired because I've only got, full throttle. I've only got a few more of those. So how am I going to get this guy out of there? I mean, seriously, like Poirier took tons of punishment, and he's just standing right in front of him. Same with Hooker for a long period of that. I mean, that was just like, that was bananas. Bananas. These guys are getting hit with such heavy shots. Like, I'm honestly asking, like, do these guys train being able to take shots like that? I don't know how you would do it. Aside from strengthening your neck, like with the thing, and then like strength, because I always have thought that like the knockout mechanism has something to do with where your skull attaches to your spine. There's total fucking guess, right? But I'm pretty sure that that's what it is because like, think about like the jaw connects to everything, right? So it's like, so when you get hit in the jaw will go like this way, and then that'll move the head, and maybe it just kind of like zaps the connection between the brain and your spine, right? Like, so whatever, like it's right there, you hit the jaw, and it just zaps that, so you go, like turns the machine off for a second, right? And then once you're out, then it kind of like turns itself back on, and you're like, whoa, you're like, what happened? They're like, oh, you gotta knock the fuck out. That's what happened. And then the temple shot takes away your equilibrium. I don't know. Bottom line is, there's a way for you to train that, like, to really stiffen those muscles up here to where you can take shots like that, because it's unbelievable the amount of shots they can take. And I love that those two were beating the fuck out of each other's bodies. I love that, dude. Ripping body shots is just, eating body shots not so fun. Ripping body shots real fun. It's a huge target too. People don't do it enough. I mean, the really good fighters do, but people like, I watch guys that are headhunting the entire fight just going, I don't understand. Like, the body's right there. You know how much it hurts to get kicked or punched in the body. Why aren't you doing it? I always think that about that. But Anyway, bottom line is that was literally one of the best fights I've ever seen. I mean, one of the best fights I've ever seen. When you look at Poirier's last however many fights, like Gaethje, easily fight of the year, like contender last year. The Alvarez fights, then the Max Holloway fight, bananas. Like this guy he's a barn burner every time. Every time. He's grown on me a lot over the years. I really like him, dude. Like, I really, really like Dustin Poirier. He was just kind of a whatever fighter for me for a long time. Like, I would watch him like, oh, cool, Dustin Poirier's fighting. And now I, like, really root for him. He's a savage, dude. Like, I found myself really rooting for him last night. Like, I really wanted him to win. All right, guys, thank you for watching. That's what I got. So, subscribe to the channel, ring the bell, like the video, all of the things, and chat soon. Peace.